Do we have a Patriots mutiny developing 4 weeks into the season? We'll break it all down here on Patscast.
Nails got the glare, poor body language. Why can't the defense set the freaking edge?
Welcome to Patscast. I'm Brad Whitaker. Visit expressvpn.com/Patscast to get 3 months off of a 12-month VPN plan. Again, that's expressvpn.com/Patscast. And it seems like the Patriots organization is already falling apart under the new Jerod Mayo regime. And, you know, when I look back at last season, 4-13 under Bill Belichick, it didn't even really feel this bad. And there were reasons to be frustrated, and you could definitely tell the defense was frustrated with the offense and their inability to score, going into every game saying, hey, if they don't score, we'll win. And we've heard that a little bit early this season as well, but you never felt like there was a real breakdown in the culture in New England, even when Matt Patricia was obviously failing as the de facto offensive coordinator. The culture didn't really implode on itself as much as you would have expected it to for a bad football team the last 2 seasons. And that's something Bill Belichick obviously established over the course of 20 plus years with the New England Patriots. And this was always a worry with Jerod Mayo taking over. And we know the slogans, hard work works, we're going to grow and develop in the weight room, we're going to be a collaborative team, we're going to do everything. People are going to be a little bit open, but ultimately, it's not the same culture, and it seems to already be falling apart. And I don't blame it entirely. I only give part of the blame, in fact, to Jerod Mayo, but he's starting to inadvertently hand out the blame himself. And that starts with offensive coordinator Alex Van Pelt, who I've certainly been very critical of on this program. Remember, after Sunday's loss to the 49ers, Jerod Mayo in his post-game presser said, quote, schematically, we gotta do a better job at getting the ball out of our hand right now. And that's an obvious shot at Alex Van Pelt, and it doesn't sound like a bad shot when you think about it. Like, yeah, of course, and every coach says this. The players gotta play better, the coaches gotta coach better, and that all falls on us, and it all falls on me as the head coach. We all know the things coaches say after the game, and that seems kind of innocuous on the surface. Schematically, we got to do a better job at getting the ball out of our hand right now. But you have to remember, the focus before Week 4, when the Patriots had 10 days to prepare for the San Francisco 49ers, was scheming up plays to let Jacoby get rid of the football quickly. In fact, Alex Van Pelt even called it, get the ball out of your hand quick week. And that's not what we saw. And that isn't just on Jacoby Brissett. That falls on Alex Van Pelt and the schemes that he's put together thus far for the Patriots this season, which have been simplified, predictable, and largely failing because he comes from a very different offensive system that the Patriots just are not used to and don't really have the players to play well within that system. How many plays were there where the first option for Jacoby Brissett going through his progression was a deep throw downfield and then a second deep throw downfield, taking up way too much time with that poor offensive line to hit the short routes or a check down, but many plays didn't even have those options. There were not short routes or check downs or ways for Jacoby Brissett to quickly get rid of the football when he was facing pressure, which happens on a nearly 50% of plays all season long. Not just this past week or the week before. All season, that's really been the case. And that's the issue, is that the Patriots had 10 days for Alex Van Pelt to come up with something for Jacoby Brissett to at least have something to work with out there. And Jacoby Brissett deserves a lot of blame, and I'll certainly get to that in just a second, but so much of this falls on Alex Van Pelt, and Jerod Mayo's looking at him going like, why don't we have a quick slant where he can just get rid of the football down the middle of the field? Why isn't there a check down available? Why isn't there something that's going to keep the defenses off their toes so we can throw it deep, so we can run the ball, so we can take advantage of play action? And Alex Van Pelt is really struggling with what he has to work with right now. And I know there's injuries, I know there's a lot going on, but this is a guy who tried to implement a wide zone heavy West Coast offense, but just doesn't have the players to do it. And because of this, he is trying to incorporate duos, the power run, gap schemes, and abandoning much of his West Coast offensive roots. And trying to implement a far more watered down and simplified version of what we saw with Josh McDaniels over the years. But unlike Josh McDaniels, Van Pelt comes from the West Coast offense. He came from the wide zone in Cleveland, and he does not have that Rolodex of plays for this type of play style. And the result of that is predictable play calling. The defense knows what's coming every single play. And we all see it on TV. We know when the Patriots are going to run the ball. We know when they're going to throw the ball. We know when they're going to try to draw the defense off sides under center, and the defenses never bite. And then they end up punting the ball or failing a 4th and 1 or a 4th and 3 situation. He just doesn't have the Rolodex there to say, okay, this isn't working. Here's some more plays that we can use, that we can implement, that's going to make life a little bit easier for Jacoby Brissett and this offensive line. We haven't seen it. He's still running bootleg play actions like they're running a wide zone. And yeah, they're still doing the wide zone, but it's not working. And the defenses look at that and they go, like, a bootleg is not going to work on us. You are not a team that is capable of pulling off the wide zone. So a bootleg play action is not going to work. And then the traditional play action plays that Alex Van Pelt runs are too simplified and really don't work on the defense. And that's what's happening. And so much of the blame is falling on him. And Gerard Mayo took a subtle shot at him after the week 4 loss to the San Francisco 49ers. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that a lot of this also falls on the quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. It's obvious on the film that players are getting open. We've seen it. Everyone's tweeting out plays on X saying, look who's open. I've done it a few times. Look, here's Demario Douglas, wide open. And he's looking in the wrong direction. And like I said, it seems like the culture in New England is beginning to fall apart. And that starts with Gerard Mayo not really establishing the culture he should. It starts with Alex Van Pelt and his lack of creativity on an offense that doesn't fit the scheme he's coming from. And it also starts with Jacoby Brissett and the frustration that seems to be growing among the players, particularly the receivers that are getting wide open and not getting the football thrown to them. Jalen Polk walked off the field during the Fred Warner pick 6 frustrated. He shouldn't do that. That's not a good look. That should be a benchable offense. But this is what we're seeing because of Jacoby Brissett's plays. Demario Douglas, a number of times, threw up his hands, had a temper tantrum. Now, he took accountability for it yesterday, saying, like, I can't do that. I'm letting down my team by doing that. That was good to hear. But when you start seeing these receivers who are not established NFL receivers, and I think Jalen Polk is very good, 3rd in separation rate in the entire NFL. I think Demario Douglas, if he were in the right situation, would be a Pro Bowler this year as Patriots' bread and butter slot receiver that we've seen so many times here over the years. But these guys, this isn't Devontae Adams. This isn't Jamar Chase. This isn't T. Higgins. These aren't guys that are well-established NFL players. They shouldn't be throwing temper tantrums on the sideline, and they certainly shouldn't be throwing temper tantrums on the field. But like I said, a lot of this is happening because Jacoby Brissett is not finding the open receivers. And you have to think, in the receiving room, there are whispers among the players that you got to get Drake May out there. And personally, I think that's what Gerard Mayo has wanted to do since week 1, but it is seemingly up to Alex Van Pelt and maybe even GM or whatever his title is, Elliott Wolf, might be a factor in that as well. So is Mayo really in charge? It doesn't seem like it on the offensive side of the football. So that's why you're starting to see him take shots at AVP in press conferences. Mayo even said today that the O-line is not a factor whether or not Drake May plays. Okay, so why isn't he playing? Why isn't he out there if the offensive line isn't a factor? He's the better quarterback. Gerard Mayo has admitted that Drake May outperformed Jacoby Brissett in training camp. He admitted that before week 1. There's plenty of reason. If the offensive line is not a factor, there are plenty of reasons to play Drake May, which means something else is going on, and it's not ultimately up to Gerard Mayo. It's up to Alex Van Pelt and probably Elliott Wolf to a lesser extent, if I had to guess. But Gerard Mayo deserves plenty of blame himself. I mean, yeah, he perfectly executed the game plan in week 1, but how do players feel now that the team is making so many mistakes, and they're playing so conservatively and not playing aggressive to make up for some of these mistakes. They took a delay of game and punted on 4th and 3 on the Niners' 41-yard line, a play that I would say 80 to 90% of NFL coaches would go for in that situation. Or him being cute and trying to draw the Niners offsides on 4th and 1, calling a timeout, running the play anyway, and Ramondre gets stuffed. In fact, they tried to do the same thing, draw the defense offsides on the 4th and 3 play, and they lined up under center, which 4th and 3 in today's NFL, like, you're going to throw the football in that situation. They tried to hard count them, and the defenses are like, okay, we know you're not snapping the ball. It's obvious they had no intention of going for it on any of these plays, and it's hard to tell if that is Gerard Mayo or Alex Van Pelt. I mean, Gerard Mayo is the head coach, so when it comes to key game situation decisions, you would assume that's on the head coach. But if it is on Alex Van Pelt, who Gerard Mayo earlier this offseason, he called him the head coach of the offense, well then Gerard Mayo, as the actual head coach, needs to put his foot down. And it's obvious, too, that the players just aren't taking the coaching at this point in the season. They're getting worse. They're regressing. They're completely different from what we saw in week 1. So many mistakes, and that's not what you want to see. But, teams are getting film on the Patriots, so it seems like it's only going to get worse. They know where the weaknesses are, and they're going to continue to exploit them unless Alex Van Pelt and Gerard Mayo find a way to patch it up. But like I said about the culture and Gerard Mayo trying to establish a new culture in New England, well, it seems right now the messaging from him is players can get away with their mistakes. Ramondre Stevenson should have been benched the rest of the game after he fumbled the ball for the 4th time in 4 games. If Mayo is smart, he will sit Ramondre Stevenson throughout the entire 4th quarter Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. At the very least, sit him the first series so you can send that message. But otherwise, he's sending a bad message, and that this is a very different culture in New England where players can get away with murder and they're still going to be out there. I know, Ramondre didn't murder anyone. It's an expression. But so many other situations, not just on the offensive side of the ball. Keion White getting away with cutting inside and going for the sack instead of setting the edge. That's been an issue for the last 3 weeks. It allowed for a lot of big runs. It allowed Geno Smith, Aaron Rodgers, and Brock Purdy to escape the pocket, make plays with their legs, throw on the run. That's because guys like Keion White are being selfish, which he was called out for by a Patriots teammate this week. Again, more infighting. You can't have that, and that's something that should have been coached out of him 3 weeks ago, but we still saw it Sunday against the Niners. And Keion White is probably the most talented defensive player they have outside of, Jabril Peppers and Christian Gonzalez. He's a very good player, very good pass rusher, but at the same time, when your coach asks you to set the edge, you have to set the edge, and that's why he's being called out by his teammates for not doing so and playing selfishly. That's something that should be a benchable offense, probably would have been a benchable offense under Bill Belichick, but just isn't with Gerard Mayo. And Mayo really has to start putting his foot down with his players, with his coaches, and be the real decision maker, because that's what Robert Kraft hired him for 6 years ago or whatever when he was in Israel and decided Gerard Mayo is our next head coach. Okay, well, if you made that decision 6 years ago, then he should be able to make decisions on his own at this point, which seemingly he cannot. Now, I know I'm being very hard on Mayo and Van Pelt, and there are obvious issues for the Patriots' struggles that go beyond coaching. Starts with the O-line. All the injuries. David Andrews is now out for the rest of the season. I actually don't think that's as big of a deal as people are making it out to be. David Andrews, great center. You want him out there when he's healthy. But it's been clear the last 3 weeks, David Andrews has really struggled. He's been playing through an injury. They replaced him with Vidarian Lowe early in the game on Sunday. Vidarian Lowe played very well at the center position, or not Vidarian Lowe, Nick Leverett, excuse me. They replaced him with Nick Leverett, who played incredibly well at the center position. He didn't allow any sacks or any pressures on Sunday against the Niners. That's quite the achievement, and something David Andrews really hasn't been able to do the last 3 weeks. Now, is Nick Leverett a better center than David Andrews? No, obviously not, but a beat-up David Andrews playing through injury, I think Nick Leverett might be better. I think that's going to be just fine, especially because when Drake May does finally get in there, He took a lot of reps with Nick Leverett throughout the preseason, throughout training camp. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of miscommunication happening there. I think Leverett probably is a little more comfortable being in the center of the offensive line instead of at the guard position where he's dealing with more athletic defensive players. So that was good to see. But obviously David Andrews being out the rest of the year, even if he was in there and beat up, it's not a good situation. We have backups all over the place. They've started 4 left tackles in the last 4 weeks. Vidarian Lowe is their best left tackle. Everyone's saying, oh, it's going to be much better when Vidarian Lowe comes back. How far have we fallen that we're saying that right now? Matthew Judon's obviously gone. Defensive injuries to Christian Barmore, Bentley. Now Kyle Duggar is out. And the truth is the Patriots don't have the best players, right? Especially in the offensive side of the football. But even on the defensive side, you're going down the depth chart pretty far. But there still shouldn't be any excuses for what we've seen over the last 3 weeks. For Alex Van Pelt not being able to scheme it up to take pressure off of the offensive line, make it easier for Jacoby Brissett. For NFL defensive players having no ability to set the edge. I mean, these are NFL players. It's not hard to scheme it up so they can do that. And look, I know they don't have the best players, but this isn't the worst roster in the NFL. You could argue it is on the offensive side, but on the defensive side, this is a good team, and they shouldn't be making the mistakes they've been making and letting quarterbacks get outside the pocket and extend plays. And the Patriots did patch up a lot of that in the second half on Sunday. I will say that was a bit encouraging. But overall, the coaching has to be better. The players have to play better. And they have to figure out what to do at quarterback. And I think if the offensive line is not a factor, Drake May should definitely be out there. We'll see what happens on Sunday. Luckily for the Patriots, they have a very winnable game against the Miami Dolphins, who haven't been able to generate any offense since Tua went down. Now, they do have a very good defense. This is going to be like a 6-3 final score, potentially. Fox's NFL power rankings had the Dolphins at 31 and the Patriots at 32. So this might be the 2 worst teams in the NFL facing off on Sunday. This is a game the Patriots should win. Otherwise, they're looking at a 1-16 season. Sad to say, unless things really begin to change, unless they get Drake May out there and he is a big difference maker. I mean, if you're not going to beat the Dolphins on Sunday, then you're not going to beat some of these other teams on the schedule. You're not going to beat beatable teams like the Jaguars or the Rams. It's just not going to happen. So Patriots, they have a real opportunity on Sunday, but if it's a loss, I think mutiny is inevitable with this organization, and it's going to begin to implode on itself. And we've already heard rumors that, hey, would the Patriots consider firing Alex Van Pelt midseason? I don't think that's going to happen, no matter how badly they perform, but things could get really bad if the Patriots do not win on Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. So we'll see what happens. Unfortunately, I won't be here to cover it. I'm traveling on business tomorrow through Monday, so there will not be a Pats cast this weekend or Monday, but we'll certainly be back next week with more Patriots coverage. If you like this video, be sure to smash that like button on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, or subscribe if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and we'll see you next week.
The Van Pelt with the playbook in his shaky hands. Mayo's orders ignored, he won't understand. Players on the field checked out and away. Where's Drake May to come and save the day? Titans like a rubber band. Nails got the glare, poor body language. Why can't the defense set the friggin' edge? Infighting Patriots are clashing plans. Offensive hearts heavy and trembling hands. Rookie ready to go and make things right. Pats cast asking, let's put up a fight. Like tangled steel wire. Mayo's fire burns, but Van Pelt's ice tires. Players frustrated, throwing up hands. Douglas stomps and pouts like he's lost in the stands. Podcast talking about sideline heat, fans holding breath, still glued to their seats. Questions hang heavy in the Monday light. Patriots torn, but they're ready to fight. Infighting Patriots are clashing plans. Offensive hearts heavy and trembling hands. Rookie ready to go and make things right.